tonight I wanted to talk about relationships a little bit. But I want to talk based in what you have to tell me about what is the most difficult thing for you in a relationship. Can anybody talk about it a little bit? Give me an example. What do you think is the most difficult thing? Go ahead.
Accepting the other from what the other is.
Okay, that's a great point. So accepting others the way they are. And why is this so difficult?
Because they want them to be the way I am.
Exactly. Okay. So we want other people to be what we think it's right. So let's see, for an example, let's see us women, right? We grow up and with Disney fantasy of a princess. Okay, this is on a collective mind of little girls all over the world. So we project, and since we were a little kid watching all those Disney movies, we project the perfect prince for us. Okay, and men too. So I'm just giving you an example of what happens. You create a little story for you based in what is the perfect man. Number one, perfect man, right, doesn't exist. Perfect woman doesn't exist, right? But we have to be very careful, because when we say that the prince or the princess does not exist, we may be talking theory only, but here, deep down in our roots, we're still expecting the prince or the princess to come out and to be exactly the fantasy, because it is a fantasy that what we create when we were a little kid, okay? And what society is telling you, let me give you a very basic example. Every time that you see a realtor that wanted to sell a house, what is the idea that they sell you at the house? What do they use? Family. They use a family, a couple with kids, beautiful, and what you think is it, oh my God, for me to be happy, I gotta have this house. I gotta have a big house. You don't think this house, but you're thinking about, I gotta have a lot of money to be happy. But you don't know that you're only thinking that way because you've been watching television and movies for years. Right? And then, but you have no awareness of that. So you cannot, we go in a relationship knowing, I don't think anybody here, that's not a new information, then we must accept other people the way they are, right? Everybody knows that, but knowing doesn't do the trick. It's something deeper within you that you need to transform. Because even though you think you know that you have to accept others the way they are, you still have a higher expectation of what a person should be for you. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Yeah? Okay. So, first thing, I need to be aware that I am not accepting this person. I need to be aware. And it's not always that simple. Why? Because you accepting things is a deep, I don't want to say feeling, but it's a deep perception that comes from non-judgment. No judgment. The only way that you can accept other people is when you stop judging. Jesus spent many times and many chapters talking about judgment, right? So I cannot say that I accept somebody when I'm the biggest judge out there. I judge myself, I judge others. So if I don't work in my judgment, I cannot create acceptance. Does that make sense? Okay? So let's go a little bit further than that. I need to have awareness that I judge. We all do. Most people do. Why? Because if I think that I don't judge, think about this. If I say to you, oh, I don't judge others. No, I don't do it, right? I am what? I am avoiding to deal with a reality that I do judge, because judgment, it's something that you think. You judge 90% of the time. You only speak maybe 10% of your judgment. So judgment is not something that you say, it's something that you think. When you think, only you know. I don't know what you're thinking. So if you are not aware of your thoughts, and you can say to yourself, this is a thought of judgment. Right there when you're doing, what are you doing? You're becoming aware of your state of judgment. You can do this when you're driving, you do this at work, you do this with your kids, with your partner. How many times you are in a relationship with a person, are you 100% honest with that person? No, because you have a lot of thoughts that you don't mention. Am I be honest with? You don't say everything that you think to that person. Why? Because it's going to create conflict, and we don't want to deal with that, right? We say, no, oh, no, but the judgment is here. And then it comes to a point when it starts to affect your feelings and your relationship, and it gets to the point, this is how divorce started. It starts years before. When you are not honest, when you don't say, because what you don't say is your judgment. You're constantly judging the other person that is with you. This is what we do. But the thoughts, it comes one after the other, and we are not aware of these thoughts of judgment. Oh, I can't believe he did this. Oh, really? So we roll our eyes. Oh my God. We do lots of things that it's reflecting the judge that lives within us. So for happy relationship, the judge has got to go. You got to be able to see the bad things, the positive, the negative, but also the positive things. Okay? So you can go ahead and see, be clear with the situation, and don't go with the expectation. Okay, that person might, who gives me something here to work with? That person might, the person that is living with you might have this problem. I don't know, maybe he or she is a little bit jealous, right? Okay, but the jealousy, I'm not talking about really crazy jealousy. Okay, it's a little bit of a problem there with jealousy. Okay, but look at the good side of that person. When is the time that you can see the negative traits of somebody, but be completely okay with that? See? Maybe he doesn't like to spend money, right? Maybe in Portuguese we say the person is like that. Okay, the person is like that. Okay, but maybe he's give you other things, that it's not money related. Can you tolerate that when you don't judge the other person only with a negative view of use, and it's natural. Everybody's going to have good, positive, and negative. We give it too much for emphasis from positive and very big negative impact for the negative size. But those traits are normal in a human being. They're normal. So when you look at them without rolling your eyes, without and just saying, okay, this is the way that person is. It's something that he must or she must work on it, but I'm not giving you that heavy value to the negative traits of that person. Does that make sense? Yeah? Okay. So if that makes sense, let's recap that. For acceptance, we must be aware of the time that we're judging. And awareness that's all it takes. I usually tell people to say, and then what do? You don't do anything. Just be aware. Be aware of your ego. Be aware of the judge. And just by being aware, it's done. So it's not that hard. So when people say it's very, very difficult to transform yourself, it's difficult. It's almost impossible. You're saying to yourself, that's not going to happen. And, but it's not that hard if you are alert, if you are aware, and if you really want to do this. And to stop judgment, you must understand how bad it is for you. That's the main thing. You have to. I cannot tell you that. I'm going to be here wasting my time and your time trying to tell you that judgment, it's not a good idea. But if you don't come to that conclusion on your own, I cannot make that for you. Just start by noticing you are okay, your emotions are okay, you're doing okay. At the moment that you judge someone, I don't care who that person is, and I'm talking about mentally, it changes you. Immediately. So it's not a good thing because it's bad. That's why Jesus says, don't judge. Oh, I'm not judging because Jesus said that for me not to judge, so I'm not going to judge. It's not going to work. You have to observe. You have to figure it out and say it to yourself and convince yourself that this is not a healthy thing for you. How many times do we go to yoga and we go to Pilates and we go to meditation because we want to feel good, we want to live a better life? But we don't realize that judgment is killing us within. It's devastating. It's devastating to your spiritual health, to your physical health, to your mental health. And it's not a good thing for you. It's not because it's right or because it's wrong. So when you do that, you really convince yourself that judgment, it's not a good idea. Then you can start to be aware. If I tell you, be aware, first then you realize how bad it is, you're not going to be alert. You're not going to be aware. Everything that you change in your life, it's because you realize that you had enough. If you're in a toxic relationship, what do? It gets to a point, then you can't take it anymore. And you take the decision to, I don't want to go through this anymore, right? But you got to make that decision. And the decision was made what? Because it was making, you were in pain when you were in that relationship. You were in pain. So that's how you do it. Same thing with judgment. You are in pain when you judge. It's not a good thing, causing you to suffer. When you stop the judgment and then you convince yourself, you said, okay, now it's not good for me. I'm going to stop with all the mental judgment noise, and I'm going to be aware. I'm going to say, oh, that's a judgment. Oh, that's a judgment. Oh, that's a judgment. Just be aware. Nothing else. Okay? And then you see the transformation happening within your relationships. There is no relationships that survives judgment. Constantly judgment. I mean, you might be in the same house, maybe sharing a bed, but the connection, it's gone. Because what judgment does is disconnect you from the other person. It disconnects you. It disconnects you from the world. It disconnects you from all the connection that you need to live in community, to live a happy life. Okay? So what else? What do you guys think? Give me another example. What is so difficult in a relationship? Give me another one. Patricia say, accept others.
When someone hurts someone you love.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I find hard.
To forgive? Okay. When someone hurts someone that you love, I don't have too much detail on the information. How did that person hurt? If it's physical, if it's emotion, pain. But, and if that three person is on the same relationship, maybe father, mother, and kids?
Hurting my kids.
Hurting your kids. Okay, got it. The kids it's yours. Okay. That's something that it's difficult in any relationship, because we believe that the way that we love someone is the right way. And that's something that we have to be aware of it, okay? I love my kids, or I love my husband, but I love it in my way. And that's not the only way or the best way. When you when somebody hurts someone that you love, it's the perception of what is hurt. Maybe the other person didn't even think that they were hurting, but that's the perception that we do have. So in order to forgive that person, to move on, we need to be able to see the point of view of the other person without judgment. Like, what happened? Why did you do that? Where did that come from? And what was your really motivation? And that is without judgment. When we talk to somebody that we love, we usually say, we go to have a conversation, and ladies, forgive me for saying that, but that's the truth, and that's why the reasons the men don't want to talk. Because we're not going with the open heart to talk and listen. We're going in with that I'm right and you're wrong, shut up, and let's go from there. Every time you sit with somebody to talk, you gotta be able to open your heart 100% to try to see the point of view of that person. You make all the effort. Because the motivation, it's there. And the only way that you can listen is if you listen with the intent to really get it. Okay, now I get it. Oh, okay, not trying to defend yourself, because that's what we do. We go to talk to someone, I want to defend my ideas, and I can barely listen to you because I already have it on my mind, the answer that I'm going to go back to you to prove that I'm right. We were in Atlanta, and we were at this hotel, and it was a wedding in a hotel. So when we go down to the elevator, me and Luigi, there was the groom with his friends. And you know, Luigi, Aquarius, talk to everybody. Hey, hello, this is the elevator talking, right? And the guy say, oh, he's getting married today, right now. He was actually coming down to go to the reception and to get married. And Luigi said, oh, yes, you know, I've been married for more than 35 years. And I go, yeah, so what is the advice? Give him the one advice. Oh, Jesus. Yeah. And Luigi thought, and Luigi put his hand on the guy's side and say, listen, you never want to be right.
You always want.
Okay? You want to be happy, not right. And then everybody looked at him and goes, and then when the guy was walking out of the elevator, it was so funny. He said, I don't want to be right. I don't want to be right. It was funny. But this is the thing. And when the man and the woman, imagine that, they want to be right in a relationship. Will that work? No, never. It's not going to work because he wants to be right. She wants to be right. And they're going to fight, not about what's happening, but whose point of view, whose perception of life it's better. Thousands of arguments daily. And then comes to the point that I said, okay, I'm done. And then you get divorced and you marry somebody else, but you still want to be right. Same thing's going to happen all over again, all over again, all over again. That's the reason why we don't listen when we are having a conversation to try to work with problems. Because I'm going with the intention to prove it right, and she's coming with the intention to prove herself right. It's a waste of time. Okay? All right. Does anybody else has another point in a relationship?
Can I ask a question?
Mm-hmm.
That part of the guilt.
Mm-hmm.
How would be a good way of communicating? Because sometimes we start a conversation because we got hurt or we feel someone got hurt. But sometimes we approach people like, as you said, accusing them of something. How do we talk about how we are feeling and how can we?
Okay. Usually, there's a really good trick that you can do it. It's a technique that usually works. Is you start the conversation with the I. So you say, I feel like you're not giving me enough attention. Because when you say I, you're not accusing. So it's the way the other person perceives. But it only works when you truly believe that you cannot validate your feelings 100%, because you don't know what your feeling is coming from. You have to be able to question those feelings, because those feelings might become from a childhood experience that you had. And that moment just triggered that a little bit. Let's see, for an example, that you felt abandoned by the dad that got divorced from the mother. Every little behavior that a person gives you that reminds you, doesn't remind you that you go and say, oh, this reminds me of my dad. It doesn't work like that. Why? Because you have two types of memories. One of the memories is emotional memories. Everything that you remember, it's practically impossible to remember something before you were 18 months old. And even that, I don't remember when I was 2. Gee, does anybody remember? But it's hard. But your type of memories for facts start to develop after 18 months. But you have another type of memory that is the emotion memory. That you have it when you are in your mom's belly, in your uterus. You might have a feeling that feeling, because the way that this emotion is stored in your body is through trauma or through intense emotion that you go through. And that gets stored over there. You don't remember the fact, but you remember the emotion. So every time that somebody does something to you, that it reminds you a little bit of that emotion, all the memories comes in, and that little thing becomes huge. And that's why you cannot validate 100% what you feel. You have to question yourself of the feelings, because it might be completely irrational. Feelings are irrational anyway. But if you don't go in and observe that to the point that you're going and start to analyze, is this really that big? Or my reaction is a little bit, off. Am I reacting through that with too much, or it's reasonable? It's okay. Okay? Because people think that, oh, if I feel this way, so what? No, we are in a culture right now that we have to super validate our feelings, and we give it too much importance of what I feel without questioning where it comes from. Go ahead, validate your feeling to yourself. Don't look for validation to others, because that's a problem. You want to validate that you feel lonely? It's okay. You go to yourself and say, I'm feeling lonely today. But don't try to tell that the other person has to be the one that's going to cover that up. It will never will. It will never be enough. If you're looking for love outside of you, does never fulfill you. It's within you. Everything is within us. So when you are overreacting, thinking about everybody here knows a jealous person, right? Right? Okay. Now, what happens to the jealousy? It's a horrible feeling. So you go in and you say, oh, I feel this for you, and the other person maybe did nothing but just looking at somebody by accident. Do you think those feelings need to be validated by the other person? They can have compassion towards, right? But that's not what we're looking for when we say, I feel this way. Most of the time, you're trying to make the other person validate. Validate is meaning, you're right, because that's what you're feeling. But when you start to question your own feelings, you're going to find out that 90% of your emotion, it's based on emotional memories from the past. And that is how we learn to let go. It's when we evaluate and see, oh, that's from the past. Let's move on. Because that's what we all need to do. Move on. We cannot be stuck as little children anymore. We can have compassion for the child, the inner child that's within you, but it's not you anymore. You are a growing adult person full of life and beautiful things to happen to you. You cannot allow the past to tell you what the future is going to be. And that's what we're doing. We're allowing our past to tell us how we should feel and how we should live our lives. Again, only awareness can cure that. Only awareness. Okay? Anybody else? Relationships? Good? All right, people. Thank you very much.